Hello and welcome back to the Bricks Hub. This is actually a bit of a continuation of a video I made a few months ago now, and this is my ATT modifications. And this is the physical set in person, unfortunately missing the minifigures because I didn't want to spend £150 on this set. So I just want to start off with what you saw last time, which was a bunch of mods that I came up with for the set. And things that I really think that the set should have considered, such as like the orientation of the foot pads, the kind of surprising, like, you know, like under-detailed stuff on the top dish, like here. There's like a lot of things that I really do think that the set should have done, but it really kind of just felt like what the 2014 one was, but with some slightly updated figures and like a slightly more like proportionally accurate build, which I really do appreciate. For example, one of the best parts about this set is that I do like that they made the smaller like legs and feet better. They made it more clear that these were smaller. They used the smaller pieces compared to the larger ones here. However, what I didn't like was the fact that, hopefully there'll be a picture of the original, was that they were just a completely inaccurate like direction. So in this modification, I've changed them so that they're in more of this X shape, which is how they should be. It's quite accurate, and I've used quite a sturdy design here. Obviously, I'll do the new tutorial with the same sort of thing. I'll just continue it from like what I did last time, and it'll be the same sort of way. And they can be like slightly adjusted actually. So if you're in different like, you know, terrain and stuff like that, it can be moved. So to just get a closer look at this, you can see this is the design I use for the central foot, which is obviously a lot bigger. And I've done the same thing where I've changed the orientation so it's more of an X shape, which it should be. And you can see that these can actually be posed a little bit. So this, what this actually means is that if you have this at like say put at an angle or maybe put in a different position, you can sort of get like a, you know, some pretty dynamic poses out of it, and it will make the ATT just look a little bit better. And another change that I made to enable some more dynamic poses is this. So you can see that the leg can move like this just as normal. And one thing I did actually do is just put a regular peg and one of these blue pins here. So when you put it back in, it stays in place. So it stays in securely there. But I also included these parts rather than just a fixed position. So it does mean that like now this all-terrain tactical enforcer, which is the title for the ATT, actually feels like it would work on all-terrain, and I really am quite happy with all the ways that you can pose it now. You can stretch these out a bit, you can readjust the little foot pads, and it just all, I think, just feels a bit more like what you would expect from, you know, a Lego set in the modern day. Another pretty major change I made was how the turret on the front works. In the actual model, how it should be, and something that's only really been done in the first 2002 model and the 2008 one, I think, is that the entire cannon is supposed to move rather than just the front. So I removed the functionality for the front. I added a little cone piece on top of that sticky out bit, and now the entire thing still turns, but also lifts up. So you can kind of recreate a bit like, you know, the scene in Revenge of the Sith where Order 66 happens and Cody asks the ATT driver to fire up. It's like the whole thing should move rather than just the front of the cannon. I can see why they make the front of the cannon move in a move up in the set, and to be honest, I wonder if that's something that ATTs can also do. But I just think that this looks a lot better, looks a lot more impactful, and obviously goes up. And obviously the usual thing is I removed the stud shooters. I do that on everything. It's not like a personal jibe at the LEGO designers. They just make the things as like sets that are fun to play with. And I just kind of make the changes how I like. So just to get a look at this feature zoomed further out, you can see. Whoop. And yeah, maybe there's not as much of a range of motion, but I always kind of thought that because it's a long gun, this thing, it's supposed to have a lot of range. It's not just the sort of thing that just, you know, shoots quite short. So yeah, although the angle might not be as high, if you think about if you're hitting something from really far away, you probably won't need something that you know, that sharp of an angle really. And I think it just works. Another small change, but I think it's fairly noticeable, is I changed the color on the guns to grey, because the darker grey just looks a little bit more in keeping with the whole style. And I know the main cannon at the top is black, but I just think the dark grey just looks a little bit better and sticks out a bit less. And also, another one of the smaller ones is that I've now used these flat tile pieces just in the middle here, on top of the front and back legs, just to look a little bit more accurate to the real thing. Still, one of the funniest stories I like to sometimes talk about is the fact that this look here for the dish on the middle leg of the ATTE, you've probably seen everywhere on YouTube by now. But I like to think that, I don't know whether I was the first one to inspire it, but I definitely came up with it, and it was just something I was experimenting with at some point. And surprisingly, 2 or 3 days later, Solid Brick Studios made his modification with his ATTE, which used a similar thing. It makes me almost think that actually, while he probably didn't copy my idea, it's more that it's just like I'm really surprised that LEGO designers didn't use that piece. Maybe it was too expensive, maybe it just wasn't available at the time, but those pieces did exist in grey, and it's surprising that the Lego set itself looks so much more accurate with that on there, especially because without it just looks like quite poor actually. So a lot of it in me is quite entertained that this has become something that a lot of people are doing on their modifications for the ATTE, even if it wasn't necessarily inspired by mine. I like to think I was the first person who did it, but I don't think I was necessarily the first one. But one thing I did change from the video you've probably seen on Solid Brick Studios' channel is I've just included one of these grey circle pieces in the middle, just because it now makes the whole thing just look a lot more uniform inside, and I just think that looks nicer. There's actually another piece that came out with a new TIE bomber set, if you've seen it, which is 2 half circles with each with a stud on top. And if you put those 2 pieces, one there and one there, and put this in, this part will stay in place so it won't spin around. But since I made this so it's now secure, maybe you do want to be able to turn this around just so you can put it in different positions and things. So it's just up to you. But if you have access to those pieces, it would be a nice change, and it just makes everything stay in place a bit better. I guess the final change I'm making here is something that's a little bit more in progress. You can see that at the moment I'm trying to cover up the gaps, because the gaps on the top here are kind of noticeable. They're not terrible, but it's just something I've been wanting to change. But it is also something I have noticed, that you can't just put pieces inside there and angled tiles, plates, to just sort that. It's not an immediate fix, and I really don't think it works for some ways. You might be able to do it, but it ends up damaging, kind of compromising the stability a little bit. But I'm gonna have to work a little bit on this. It's not something that I expect to be done very soon, but maybe if I do a third video for this series, I'll be able to show you it fully changed. So for the moment, this is all I've got right now for the changes to my ATT set. I do think that overall the set is really good, but I just think it needs a few changes just to make it look a little bit more accurate to the source material, and make it less of a playset and a bit more of a display thing, because that's what I prefer. If you're more into playsets, that's completely fine, and I really appreciate that, but I'm just trying to make it a little bit more accurate overall. So yeah, apart from the main changing of the turret, there isn't as much difference between this build and the one I showcased a few months ago, but I really do think seeing it in person was something good, and I'm glad I managed to buy it, because it's a really fun set. So yeah, just let me know if you have any more ideas for modifications in the comments. This has been really fun to work on, and thank you so much for watching.